Welcome to the first day of the robotics workshop. This is video 1 on how to use Onshape. This video will show you the basics in 3D design, and by the end of it you should be able to create a cube that looks like this. Okay, in terms of prerequisites, you should already be a member of the Google Classroom. I'm sure Mr. Schmidt would help you out with that. You should already have an Onshape account. If you do not, we have a link in the video description on how to make one. It's a super easy guide. And then once you have an Onshape account, you should have both the Laserjoint plugin installed and the Auto Layout plugin installed. If you do not have those, they're in the description. I will show you how to do that now. Okay, in order to install these two scripts we need to use, we do two things. You should open the links in the description. You should have this one and this one. And then the only thing you want to check is this little plus right here. You can go here, you can click here, and it's already good. It's blue, that means it's good. If it's not blue, you can click it. And then over here, you also want to press plus, and you want to click it to make it blue. I already have them installed, so they're already blue, but it looks something like that. You'd click it and be blue, and you're good. You know if you did it right when it says custom feature blah 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 was added to your toolbar. Cool. Okay, assuming you did all the previous steps right, you should be able to sign to Onshape, and it should look something like my screen right now. It's not going to look exactly like it, but it should look similar. You should have this button in the top left to create something. You know, to create and create a new document. You can name this document whatever you want. I'm going to call it cube, but if you want to, you'd call it document McDocument face. It's up to you. Okay, so this is the 3D design environment that we're going to be using. This is called the Part Studio. It's fairly simple. If you want to look around the Part Studio, you could hold the right click right side of your mouse and drag around, and you should be able to move it like that. And if you want to pan the camera, you have to hold the scroll wheel down. So not scrolling the scroll wheel, but pressing it down and moving the mouse will allow you to pan around like this. If you ever get lost, we have this little navigation cube in the top left. You can just press a face and it'll line you there. So if I'm way over here and I get lost, I can click here and it should be right back to where I am. Okay, on the left we have our operations. So this shows us our planes that we're working with, our origin, and there'll be more stuff here later and I'll explain it as we go. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to create a sketch. So I'm going to make a sketch, it's right there, and I'm going to choose a plane to work on. So this is like the 2D piece of paper we're going to draw our object onto. So let's do it on the front plane. Next step, this is very important, you want to normalize the camera. You can do this in two ways. You can either press the N key on the keyboard, or you can press the front thing in the little cube right there. So you can press front, and your camera's nice and squared off. So we want to make this cube. Give me a second. This cube right here. See? So we have 6 sides, and we're using a thin cardboard-like material that we're going to cut in our laser cutter. So we have to design each one of these faces. Okay. For now, though, we're just going to design a solid cube. No fancy laser joints like you can see there. Yep, none of this fancy stuff. Okay, we're gonna make a cube. So first things first, we're gonna use a center point rectangle. It's on a drop down right here. Center point rectangle, it's the key R if you want to use the keybind. You can click there. You can click the center point. So for us, we want the center point to be the middle. And we can drag it out, and now we have a square. So I'm gonna press it. But now if you notice this right now, it says 85 right there. It's in millimeters. And millimeters are great, I love millimeters. But for now, we're gonna be working in inches. So we can press check on the sketch and save it for now. Press the hamburger menu in this top left, the 3 lines. Go to workspace units and switch it from millimeters to inches. Okay, instead of making a new sketch now, we want to edit the sketch because we already have a square done. So we're going to double click sketch 1 over here, and we're back to editing the sketch. You know if you're editing the sketch when these tools look like this. There's no sketch in the top left, it's just these sketch tools. So in order to design something, we don't want it to be squishy like this. This is squishy. This means if someone comes along and does this, our design changes. We don't want that. So what we want to do is we want to add constraints. Constraints will allow us so the cube can't be flexy like it was. So our main constraint is going to be the dimension tool. So you can see right here, key D, you can press dimension, you can click aside, and you can see how big you want it. For me, I want my to be about 2 inches wide and 2 inches in length. Now you notice that everything's in black. That means I can't move it around. See, I can't move it, I can't drag it, I can't do anything. So you want to press check on that. And now if you move the camera around, you can see we have a 2D square. Next thing we want to do is we want to extrude it 3D. So these sketches, what we do with them, we basically manipulate them. We can push, pull, rotate them to make a 3D object. So for us, we want to use the extrude tool. It's right next to the sketch button on the top left. It's Shift E. You can click on the gray square and you can select the depth. For us, we want it 2 inches because we want a cube. But if you want, you can do 3 inches or 4 inches. You could have a rectangle, kind of like this. Okay, for the ease of our lives, we're going to want to check the symmetric box. So it does 1 inch on the left and 1 inch in the right. So we have a nice even cube in the middle of the studio. We press check. And now we have our cube. Our next step is for our script that makes it, give me a second, like this. We want to have each of the sides to be its own part. And each of those sides should be intersecting so the script knows what to join. So this side and this side have to be different parts. So we can go back to Onshape. Now we're going to use the Thicken tool. The Thicken tool is this one on the top left. It's right there. It's the first one on the drop down. Now it's going to ask for faces and surfaces to thicken. We're going to want to check this and this. And if you notice right now it says add in the top left. We don't want to add to this because if we add to this, it's going to be a wide square. We want to have new parts. So we're going to double click it to edit it. I'm going to check new. And you notice how in the parts menu here, there's 2 new ones and they're different colors. However, we want these to intersect. So if we want these to intersect each other, we don't want them to be going out, we want them to be going in so they cross. So we can just switch this arrow, and now we have them going in the cube. We're going to repeat this 3 times. Just switch it to new, make sure it goes inside. I'm going to press thicken, I'm going to repeat it again, click both sides, flip it around, switch it to new. So now if you notice, we have one part for each of our faces, which is good. However, we still have the original cube, which we don't need anymore. So what we're going to do is delete the cube. So I don't know where that is, so this is a nice thing to know. If you ever don't know where a tool is, you would search right here. I'm going to search for delete, and I want to delete a part, and I want to delete part 1. So now if you notice, each side is its own color, that means it's its own part. So if I click on part 1, I can see that this is this face. Now we want to go to this drop down menu right here. I have a bunch more of these than you do, but you are only going to need auto layout and Laserjoint, which are the 2 we installed earlier. So we're going to find Laserjoint in the list, which is right here. Okay, and we're going to want to switch it from single to automatic. It's going to ask for parts to join. We're going to want to highlight the entire thing. If you notice, right now my highlighting thing is orange, but if you do something like this, it's blue. For now, we want to do orange, which is inclusive. So if I do like half of the square highlighted, it will all highlight and it'll be nice. So we want to check add allowance. This add allowance thing is going to add a little gap in the middle. This is going to allow us a little bit of wiggle room so our parts will fit together better. I'm going to check add to tab faces too. Boop. Now if you notice, we have our cube. This is close to done, however, there's a slight issue. Right now, if we look at these thickens that we did, we can notice they're 0.25 inches or a 1/4 inch wide, and this material is not a 1/4 inch thick, so it would not go together right now. So what we're going to do is we want to create a variable. Kind of like in math, you have y equals x squared or whatever, and you have a little line. A variable is just a number we can change. There's no fancy math stuff yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to press this variable table button on the right, and we're going to name a variable. So let's name ours thickness. It's set to length, which is good. And how thick is our eco board? I believe it's 0.25 inches or a quarter or an eighth of an inch. But you can get a pair of calipers and ask any robotics member and they will show you how to measure the thickness of the eco board. Okay, now if you notice on this left side, we have all our operations. We have this original sketch, we have the extrude that made it into a cube, we have the 3 thickens that made each side thicker, we deleted the middle cube, and we used the joint. Now we can think of this left side kind of like time travel. This sketch 1 happened before I made the variable. So I want the variable to be around for the entire time. So I'm going to drag this variable up. So now in time, I made that variable before I did anything. This bar you can also roll back. So now you can see the step where it was a cube. We can go to the next step. We can see 1 side, 2 side, 3 side. So we deleted the middle part. And we can see when we made the laser joint. Great. So now in order to actually make this thickness variable do anything, we want to go to our thicken 1. And instead of saying the thickness is 0.25 inches, we're going to do hashtag thickness. You can click it and press enter. And if you notice, it's a lot thinner now. You can press check. And it's going to panic for a second. But we want to make sure all the thickens have been updated to a new variable. So hashtag thickness. Press enter, press the check mark. The thicken thing. Hashtag thickness. Enter. And there we go. So now we have this. This, and on the computer and in person, they are the same thing. So if we want to check our work, we can go back to Onshape. We can go back to this variable menu, and instead of saying it's an eighth of an inch, let's say it's a half inch. And now it's going to be really chunky. Or we can say it's paper thin, and it's going to be really thin. You can see the tiny little joint right there. Okay, but let's set it to 0.125 as a placeholder, but once you finish this, you can ask any team member and they will happily help you figure out the thickness of EcoBoard. Now as a final step, we want to go to our fancy toolbars and we're going to want to go to Auto Layout. This is one of the ones you installed in the tutorial. You want to click it. It's going to do everything for you, and you just want to press check. And now if you notice, we have all of our parts lined up like this. If you want to go back to before we did that, you can just look there and you can show off your cube to other people, but it should be finished when it looks like this. Okay, in the next video, we will show you how to add customizations like this, or like this. If you're super advanced, you could make a plane. For now though, this is finished. You can watch the next video if you want to add customizations or you want to cut it. Thanks for the time.